Hi, guys. It's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. Okay. So, believe it or not, we're almost done with Furman. We made it through almost all of his testimony. We have a couple more days of him, like 2, 3 days more, and we're done with Furman. And then it gets radically different. We lose all of our lawyers, and another set of lawyers come in. It looks like it, just from what I can see from thumbnails. But Cato's coming up soon. Yeah, we thought Mark Furman's hair was great. You just wait.
The copy delivered to me this morning in court, and
Can we agree it's 100,000, or should we get the original from?
let me make a call.
All right, well then, all the more reason to delay recross as to this issue.
It's over 100,000 of the exact words.
All right, well, let's get a clean copy of this, if it's available.
Your Honor, may I make inquiry of the prosecution as to whether either the left or right-handed glove that was actually involved in the murders, we believe, is accessible? The reason I tried to buy one is because we have told they were still being tested somewhere, but it seems to me if either one is available, the bulk would be sufficiently similar to make the question fair.
But this is a Eris brand gloves are commonly available. I mean, that's a major brand of gloves. I assume a similar glove is available commercially.
I thought this was Dan Marino's glove, the Isotoner or something like that?
Ms. Clark, what brand is it? I thought you told me it's Eris.
Eris Isotoner, okay.
Broadway.
Well, if we can get an extra large glove not used in the murder, would that be fair?
Yes.
All right.
It's the bulk that's the issue. And if you use
McKenna,
a
I
small...
don't have to tell you where your duty lies.
All right, thank you, counsel. Let's have the jurors, please. Madam
Go get it, Kardashian. Go shopping.
Reporter, are you okay? Or the delay in getting started this morning, there were a number of issues that I had to deal with this morning so far, perhaps 20 different issues that we've had to address and I've had to make rulings on or make determinations and discuss things. And as luck would have it, it just takes a long time, some of these things. And I just want you to know that while you're back there, I'm aware that you're back in that small little room and it's not the most comfortable place in the world. And I do have in the back of my mind constantly the pressure knowing that you're back there. But there are just some things that I have to determine out of your presence, and they got longer than I thought they would today. All right, Detective Furman, would you please resume the witness stand, please? All right, Detective Mark Furman is back on the witness stand undergoing cross-examination by Mr. Bailey. Good morning, Detective.
Good morning, Your Honor.
You're reminded you're still under oath. Mr.
Yes, sir.
Bailey, you may resume.
Detective Furman, yesterday you told us about a certain time that you were in a grand jury room with other lawyers whom you named. Have you been able to recall the identities of any of the other people that you were unable to name yesterday who were present during this exercise?
No.
Okay. And I take it you've made no inquiry as to who they were then?
No, I haven't.
Is this the only time that you were questioned in a modified court setting, so to speak?
Yes, sir.
How many other conversations did you have this year, I take it they were all this year, with Mr. Darden, Ms. Clark, Ms. Lewis, or other prosecutors about the forthcoming testimony?
Several conversations. I'd have a difficult time on numbers.
We have the same difficulty with the word several, okay? If you could use numbers, it would be much more helpful to us. Were you engaged in at least 10 different visits with the prosecution in preparation for this case, including the one in the grand jury?
I think that'd be the high number. I don't think it'd be that many. I'd feel more comfortable with maybe 8.
8, you think, would be more accurate?
Yes.
And does that include this session that you described?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the subject matter of the session with the 3 lawyers was the Kathleen Bell problem, you told us.
Yes.
And that was the sole purpose of this simulated cross-examination?
To the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay. Do you have any understanding of how the questioning that was done to you was to alleviate your concern over remarks you say you never made? What was the plan? Can you explain that to us?
No, I can't.
You can't.
No.
Well, were you told why you were being brought into that room?
To be confronted with cross-examination type questions
All right, but I'm sure it was more explicit than that, wasn't it?
concerning Kathleen Bell.
Concerning Kathleen Bell.
Yes.
All right. And were you told what they were hoping that you would do or not do when questions were put to you?
No.
Did any of the questions contain the name Kathleen Bell?
I don't believe so. I'm not sure on that, but I don't believe it did, no.
Did it contain the name of any other living person related to this case?
No, not that I remember, sir.
How many total questions do you say were put to you to address the Kathleen Bell problem?
Not very many. It'd be hard to estimate. It'd be also less than 10, I'm sure.
Less than 10.
Yes.
3 lawyers asked you a total of 10 questions?
There was a lot of discussion between the lawyers. It just wasn't questioning.
My question was, do you represent to this court and jury that 3 lawyers asked you a total of 10 questions in this
Yes.
session?
Yes.
That would be 3 and a fraction per lawyer.
Yes.
Do you know any lawyer on this earth who is capable of asking only 3 questions?
Not currently.
Touche. Detective Furman, how was it possible for these people to prepare you to confront the Bell problem, whoever brought it to your attention, myself or another lawyer, without using the words that you were claimed to have used in her presence? How did they do that?
I read some allegations. I believe it was on a declaration.
All right. Did you have in front of you a document filed in this court, signed by Kathleen Bell, alleging the conduct that we discussed before the close of court yesterday?
So are you talking about
Oh,
what I viewed on the
Yes.
that letter in front of me? No. I did not
No,
have
no.
that.
I'm talking about a declaration that was filed in court by Kathleen Bell as an offer of proof.
On that day?
sustained. Nothing was filed by Kathleen Bell in this court.
I'm sorry, not by Kathleen Bell, in her behalf as to what she would say.
In front of me that day, sir?
Yeah.
No.
What paper were you looking at that was the basis of the question? Can you
I
tell
was
us?
looking at no paper.
I thought something was read to you or that you read that you called a declaration. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
I had read it previously. I don't know when.
Were you familiar with its contents?
I read it once, yes.
Were you familiar with the language attributed to you by Ms. Bell in that declaration?
Yes.
Was any of that language the subject matter of the questions put to you by counsel?
They did not use that language, no.
What language did they use instead to help you with the Bell problem?
English.
They used the term racial slurs.
Okay. Well, now, do you have any memory of even one of these 10 questions?
No.
Not a single one.
No, sir.
And this happened when, Detective Furman?
I believe it was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
Well, now, you have been exhibiting a startling memory for detail of a crime that was 8 months ago, have you not?
Sustained.
Did any of the questions require you to say whether or not language of that sort was a part of your vocabulary?
I might have offered that.
Tell us, please, what it was you offered these lawyers in that room about your vocabulary, Detective Furman.
Did I?
Overruled.
Would you answer?
Yes. That I don't use any type of language to describe people of any race, such as what is alleged by Kathleen Bell.
And you never have. Is that right?
Sustained. That question's irrelevant.
Did you say to the lawyers who were trying to prepare you for the Bell problem that you never used that language?
It wasn't asked, sir.
Withdrawn. I'll be more specific. Did you tell the lawyers in that room that you never used the word nigger?
Overruled.
It was never asked.
I'm asking, do you?
Do I what?
That's vague. Rephrase the question.
Do you use the word nigger in describing people?
Presently.
Yeah.
Overruled.
No, sir.
Have you used that word in the past 10 years?
Not that I recall, no.
You mean if you called someone a nigger, you have forgotten it?
I'm not sure I can answer that question the way you phrased it, sir.
You have difficulty understanding the question. I'll rephrase it.
Yes.
I want you to assume that perhaps at some time, since 1985 or 6, you addressed a member of the African American race as a nigger. Is it possible that you have forgotten that act on your part?
No, it's not possible.
Are you therefore saying that you have not used that word in the past 10 years, Detective Furman?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
And you say on your oath that you have not addressed any black person as a nigger or spoken about black people as niggers in the past 10 years, Detective Furman?
That's what I'm saying, sir.
So that anyone who comes to this court and quotes you as using that word in dealing with African Americans would be a liar, would they not, Detective Furman?
Yes, they would.
All of them, correct?
All of them.
All right. Thank you. Did you have any other training sessions of this sort?
I'm sorry, sir?
Did you have any other training sessions of this sort?
No.
Did you have other sessions wherein the word nigger was used between you and counsel?
No.
Never.
No.
Okay. Detective Furman, I'm showing you what I believe to be a replica of the flashlight you described as having carried that night, and I wonder if you could tell me whether or not it is substantially similar, or appears to be.
Yes, it's exactly.
Appears to be marked. May this just be marked for identification or in case it's used later on.
10:55.
They're pondering.
I realize it's light in here, Detective Furman, but would you check that and see whether or not, by rotating the head of the light near the bulb, it turns on and off and also changes its projection? Can you just point at a dark corner under the witness?
Yes, it does, sir.
Appear to function about the same way?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you narrow the light to a spot? Okay, would you shine it on the screen? All right. Now, would that light in darkness, Detective Furman, enable you to see for a distance of 10 to 15 feet, do you think, to see an object?
I could see the object at that distance without a light. With the light, yes, it would aid me greatly.
No, in total darkness.
I wasn't in total darkness.
Understand?
Yes.
Well, I don't think you know yet what I'm talking about, which place and time. Or have you assumed that I'm talking about your visit to the north fence?
No, I'm not assuming that.
Assume it.
Assumed.
Yes. Now, My question is, when you were at the north fence and you saw the glove that you referred to, perhaps mistakenly, as them in your preliminary hearing, were you able...
Sustained. Rephrase the question.
You saw one glove there, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you look around the area at all in any way?
What area is this, sir?
The area near the fence. The glove was almost at the fence, was it not?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't even close to the fence, sir.
What was it close to?
It was close to the sidewalk.
All right, but wasn't there some railings nearby, near
No.
Goldman's body?
Yes. By Mr. Goldman's body, but not by the glove and the hat.
Do you recall saying that leaves were cascading down over the glove, making it difficult to see?
Yes, there was a plant that had leaves that went up and then fell down a broadleaf plant, and it covered portions of it. It was still visible, but it was clearly visible from the other side
All right.
of the
And
north
could
fence.
Could you see that without the aid of a flashlight?
You could see the objects, but not as well as you could with a flashlight.
All right. If you had shined that flashlight on that glove, the left-hand glove, would it have illuminated it better than the ambient light was doing?
Yes, sir.
Now, will you describe the terrain immediately around the crime scene? And I wish you to eliminate the sidewalk, which is a concrete or terrazzo inlay.
Are you talking
Yes. But what do you have? Do you have grass? Do you have plants? Do you have shrubs?
around Mr. Goldman?
No, around the area closed off by the fence being the one against which his body was kind of struck.
That's Mr. Goldman.
Yes.
Dirt, large tree by, I think, by his hip, buttocks area. Large meaning maybe 3 or 4 inches in trunk diameter.
Was there any other plant life growing in that area?
There was plant life, but I don't recall exactly where it was.
Was it similar to the plant that was partially covering the glove and the cap that we have seen in several pictures?
I don't recall, sir.
Did it stand about that high from the ground?
Indicating about what?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, yes, about 8, 10 inches or more from the ground.
Which plant are you talking about
I'm
now?
talking about plants that were growing outside the fence enclosure where the crime occurred and adjacent to it.
Overruled.
I can't remember all the small plants that were in the area, no, sir.
Okay. Well, can you tell me whether or not immediately adjacent to that fence and in the general vicinity where the cap and glove and Goldman were located, there were plants sufficiently high to conceal another object the size of the glove it had been lying there?
Objection, that's vague, confusing, compound.
Overruled.
I couldn't speculate on that, sir.
When you arrived at the scene that night, and I'm looking for something, so we'll come back to this and perhaps give you some help on your recollection. When you arrived at the scene that night, were you wearing a coat, jacket of some sort?
When I first arrived at the scene, yes.
Can you describe it?
Blue blazer.
And you were wearing the trousers and shirt that we see you in with your weapon in the picture pointing at the left-handed glove?
Yes, tan
Is that-
slacks.
Okay. Now, at some point, did you walk back to your vehicle and take off your blazer and hang it or lay it in the vehicle somewhere?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can you tell the court and jury about what time of day that happened, bearing in mind that you arrived at about 2:10?
It would be after I was relieved from the case.
All right, that would be close to 3 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
And that's when you walked back to the vehicle and left the jacket and stood waiting for your relief,
Yes, sir.
correct?
Yes.
10:56.
His jacket and his socks and his clothes are important because Bailey is about to say that he hid the glove in his clothes somewhere. Marcia keeps pointing out he didn't have his jacket on. So it's just his regular shirt, khaki pants. So Bailey is saying that he hid the glove in his sock.
I'm going to show you what has been marked for identification as defendant's 1056, which is a photograph that you may recognize. Would you look at the monitor and tell me whether or not that is a scene that you have viewed before? Back it up. Does that depict the entrance to 875 Bundy with Nicole Brown Simpson's body lying in the rear?
Yes, it is, sir.
Your Honor, I assume the feed is off. I should have.
Yes, it is.
Before. Now,
Mr. Harris warned me.
does that help you to recall the nature of the shrubbery which was to the north of the entrance walkway at 875 Bundy on that evening?
It didn't appear that way from the fence, no.
Well, did you ever stand in this vantage point on the sidewalk on Bundy looking west?
Yes.
Okay. When you first arrived there, I believe in a similar photograph, you explained that you and Detective Phillips, together with Officer Risky, approached the gate post, which we see in the photograph, by going through the shrubbery off to the left of the photo and then entering the area shown by the photo and walking up to the gate post.
Yes,
Correct?
sir. Yes.
That would have given you ample opportunity, I take it, to view the shrubbery on the north side of the walk from a distance of a couple of feet. Did it not?
Not really, sir.
All right.
If
My
I-
understanding is you're at the gate post. Can you put an arrow on that, please? Just to make doubly certain that we're talking about the same thing. When you referred earlier in your direct testimony, Detective Furman, to the gate post beyond which you could not go without risking the contamination of evidence, is this the approximate area that you meant?
Yeah, a little more to the right, sir, was where Officer Risky was. In that area, yes.
Okay. From there, did you have a view across the walkway at the shrubbery that we see in the photograph?
In the photograph, yes, sir. This shrubbery, yes.
Were you suggesting that this shrubbery is different than the shrubbery that existed on the morning of June 13th?
No, if I could see a picture of from the north residence looking toward Mr. Goldman's body in a southerly direction, it would be easier to explain.
We are going to try and locate one, but for purposes of your present examination, can you tell me whether or not, from the position you were standing, if you look across the walkway in a northerly direction, you could judge the height of the shrubbery that we see in the photo?
Yes, sir.
And was the shrubbery that we see in the photo substantially the same as what you saw when you arrived at 2:10 a.m.?
Yes, sir.
And would you agree that that shrubbery is fully capable of hiding small objects that might be dropped into it?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Overruled.
Can I approach the witness, Your Honor? Detective Furman, before displaying it, I would like you to look at this photograph and tell me, if you can, whether or not that was taken looking in a northerly direction from the walkway at the base of the stairs in the approximate position where Nicole Brown Simpson's body was after the bodies had been removed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The area to which I was attempting to direct your attention is on the right or east side of that fence. Now, in looking at that photo, does that refresh your recollection as to whether the glove and the cap were found close to the fence?
Yes, sir. You're talking about this fence that runs north-south.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay. And you recognize this as being the area where Mr. Goldman's body was found when you were there?
Yes, this is the area I was referring to as somewhat cleared out.
May this be marked?
All right, People's 1050, excuse me, Defense 1057.
1057, Your Honor?
1057. I don't think we need the arrow on that.
I would like the arrow, Your Honor, so that I can point something out to the witness.
All right, proceed.
Detective Furman, we are now looking north inside the crime scene area after the removal of the bodies, or at least the body of Mr. Goldman, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. And would you point out in that photo, and I'll ask Mr. Harris to put an arrow on it when you do, the area where the left-hand glove and cap were found?
Yes, sir. That's the area right there.
Okay, so that is fairly close to the fence, as I suggested, but you had in mind a different fence when you said it was not, right?
Yes, sir. I was talking about the north fence.
The north fence?
Yes.
And we are talking now about the east fence.
Yes.
Now, what I was trying to learn is this. Number one, would the spot of your flashlight in the ambient light conditions coming from the house, I guess, you fellas hadn't artificially lighted anything when you were there with spots and floods, had you?
No, sir.
Okay, you were operating with flashlights and whatever light could be gained from the open door of the house?
Yes, sir.
All right. Would the little flashlight that you have been handling been capable of illuminating the area immediately outside the east wall of that fence, which is on our right as we look at the photograph?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Take it there.
They're pondering again. I think they're just happy to be involved.
You neglected to print 1056 with the arrow where Mr. Harris put it next to the, I'm sorry. Mr. Harris is ahead. It is printed. May that be 1056A, Your Honor?
1056A.
And the other one then would be 1057A.
Yes. Hard copies of each.
Detective Furman, as best you can from your recollection, could you go through the meetings that you had with prosecutors since January 1 and simply tell us who was present and how long they took?
I've met with Mr. Darden.
All right, start with the first one you can recall. Do you have any date in mind as to when this first meeting with Mr. Darden might have taken place?
I believe I probably met with Miss Lewis before Mr. Darden.
Miss Lewis?
Yes.
Okay. And could you tell us when that occurred?
No, sometime this year.
Within the past week?
Well, I've seen her frequently because she's in the DA's office, but not all of the contacts were talking about anything to do with testimony.
Was any one lawyer at each of the meetings where testimony or the case, either one, was discussed?
No.
The first meeting that you had with Miss Lewis, when would you estimate that it took place? In January, February, or March?
I'm not sure, sir.
You can't tell us whether it was more than 3 weeks ago or less?
Well, I've talked to her several times over several months.
I appreciate that, but I'd ask that you use your best memory to inform us of when you first met with Miss Lewis about this case, testimony or otherwise, and how long that meeting was.
I'm not sure. As far as motions, it could have been, I met her last year or talked to her on the phone, but I don't recall exactly.
Did you or didn't you meet with the prosecution last year about the case after the preliminary hearing?
I did not.
Or will.
I did not.
Well, what did you mean when you said, I may have met her last year over the phone or otherwise about some motions?
Well, I might have been asked about something that's no longer part of this trial or a motion that... I get phone calls, sir. I don't write them down. I don't log them in. I don't know what to tell you.
You're a detective who doesn't always take notes.
I don't take notes about phone calls, or that's all I do.
Okay. Well, how many times did you speak with the prosecution on the phone as opposed to personally about this case, starting in 1994, if you can?
I've talked on the phone with prosecutors about when we could get together or meet, and that's kind of difficult because of the scheduling.
All that aside, Detective Furman, when did you talk with a prosecutor about a motion in 1994?
Sir, I don't have a day calendar.
Or will.
I don't have a day calendar. I write those memos in.
I understand, but you have a memory. You remember this crime occurred in June of 94, don't you?
Yes.
All right. Now tell us as best you can, what was the motion that you were discussing on the phone?
Objection, that's irrelevant.
Or will.
Sir, there's been so many things going on with this, I couldn't tell you. When I talked to some people about...
Didn't ask you that. What was the nature of the motion that required that you be consulted, if you know?
I don't, sir.
Was it a motion about Kathleen Bell?
Or will. You can
I've
answer.
talked to...
You can answer the question.
I've talked to Miss Lewis about Kathleen Bell's motion, yes.
All right. And was that in 1994 when it was presented or filed?
It could have been.
All right. Did you talk on January 3rd when it was argued? Or thereabouts?
I don't recall a date, no.
All right. Were you in the prosecutor's office in the month of January?
I believe so, yes.
On what occasions? And start with the first one, please.
Sir, I cannot remember a date. I couldn't give you a time.
You kept no record whatsoever of your visits.
Why would I do that?
Were you on duty?
Yes.
Did you have to account for someone as to where you were going and why?
No, when the DA's office wants to talk to a detective, they obviously will talk to him. There's nobody that would need to give me permission. I just say I'm going to the DA's office.
Well, who would you tell? Someone had to know where you were, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
Well, who's your boss? Detective
Ron
Phillips?
Phillips.
Okay. Did you tell Detective Phillips on those occasions when you were coming downtown to work on this case where you were going?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if any records of any kind are kept about these visits?
Not to my knowledge.
Are the prosecutors keeping any records of your visits that you know of?
I don't know, sir.
All right. Now, do you leave it to the court that if you had a meeting with Miss Lewis in January, you are not certain of it?
That's correct.
You jumped
Give me a second, guys. I gotta get it up again. Yeah, I said that. Oh no, everything's opening up. Oh boy, oh boy. It's probably gonna start like a few minutes before where we were, just so you know. March 15th, June 30th. Hold on. Almost. Okay. I was really worried that YouTube was going to shut the whole stream down. So the cat stepped onto the power button. Remember earlier in my other stream, they were saying cats are brats? No, they're not. That's not a strong enough word. I need a bigger word that I'm not allowed to say. So yeah, it's probably going to start a few. Well, no, when my streaming software turns off, my live stream ends on YouTube. So I thought YouTube would end it, but it didn't. It let me come back. I hate when it does that. I really do. These bounce around for a second. So you have to
If this wants to talk to a detective, they obviously will talk to him.
There we
There's nobody that
go.
would need to give me permission. I'd just say I'm going to the DA's office.
Well, who would you tell? Someone had to know where you were, didn't they?
Yes, sir.
Well, who's your boss? Detective
Ron
Phillips?
Phillips.
Okay. Did you tell Detective Phillips on those occasions when you were coming downtown to work on this case where you were going?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know if any records of any kind are kept about these visits?
Not to my knowledge.
Were the prosecutors keeping any records of your visits that you know of?
I don't know, sir.
All right. Now, do you leave it to the court that if you had a meeting with Miss Lewis in January, you are not certain of it?
That's correct.
You just don't have any memory of meeting this woman in January, the one seated at the table here to my far right.
Objection, that states question.
Sustained. Phrase the question.
Okay. Try again. Did you or did you not see Miss Lewis in January in this building?
I'd say I could have, but I couldn't tell you exactly when, so I can't say for sure.
Is she the first lawyer that you met and talked to?
After the prelim?
In 1995. We'll just leave 94 alone for now.
I don't know if she's the first, sir.
You don't know.
No.
Does anyone else come to mind as being the person who started off this whole series of interviews?
No.
Was it Mr. Darden?
No.
Was it Miss Clark?
No.
Any other lawyers not seated here today that you've worked with on this case?
No.
Mr. Hodgman?
No.
Okay. So January, then, I take it, is a blank.
No.
May we now turn to February. Do you have any memory of coming to this building in February and meeting with someone?
Yes?
When was the first meeting in February that you can recall, Detective
can't.
Phillips?
I can't recall when in February.
I'm not asking for a date in a minute. Can you say early, middle, late? Give us any help at all?
I'd say it would be fair to say probably the early part of February and the latter part.
All right. Who was present at the meeting, the first one?
I've talked to Mr. Darden, talked to Miss Clark, I've talked to Miss Lewis.
Does that mean you cannot remember who was present at the first meeting?
That's correct.
And that was early in February, you think?
Yes.
Okay. When was the one after that?
I'm not sure, sir.
Early, middle, or late? Can you help us at least that much as to meeting number 2 in February, Detective Furman?
Sometime in the latter part of February.
All right, so you had a meeting in the early part of February, being the first one of that month, and you don't remember who was at that meeting, correct?
No.
And then you had a meeting at the latter part of February, with whom, if you recall?
I've talked to all these prosecutors that are seated before me.
All at once?
No, they work a team. I could talk to one, I could see another one the next day or the next hour.
Well, let's try and approach it another way. Of the 3 prosecutors facing you, with whom did you spend the most time talking about the case?
Probably Miss Clark.
When's the first time you can remember seeing Miss Clark in a meeting that you attended in this building? In February?
I believe in the latter part of February.
Okay. Do you remember how long the meeting was?
We didn't have many meetings or discussions that lasted much longer than an hour once we got started.
Do you remember the day of the week that the meeting occurred?
No, I don't.
Do you have any memory of the time of day that the meeting occurred?
It would be after court or maybe an afternoon on a weekend, but I can't remember that period of time or day a week with the person.
Can't remember.
No.
Okay. When was the next February meeting you had after number 2 late in the month with Miss Clark?
Sir, I don't know.
Don't know.
No.
But Detective Furman, when I asked you if you'd had 10 meetings and you said 8 would be more like it, where did you get that number?
I just felt 10 was too many. It just felt like, I'm more comfortable with 8.
Well, did you pick 8 out of the air, or do you remember having approximately 8 meetings with prosecutors?
Objection, this is argumentative.
Sustain.
Did you have a memory when you gave us that answer of about 8 meetings with prosecutors?
Objection, this is argumentative.
Overruled.
That felt like a comfortable number, yes.
All right. Why did it feel comfortable?
Because it was more than 5 and less than 10.
So far, you've described 2. Were there any more meetings in February other than the 2 that you've described that you can recall now, Detective Furman?
I can't recall the specifics. I didn't take note of these. Many times it was inconvenient, and sometimes we got nothing accomplished because of scheduling and things going on with people's personal lives. Sometimes they were not much of meetings at all because of people's lives.
And were there some times when disagreements prevented anything from being accomplished?
I don't recall that.
Don't recall having any disagreement.
No.
All right. Now, how about March? Do you recall some meetings in March?
We have met, yes, in March.
The first one in March that you can recall, and I assume that it would have to be early or middle.
Yes, early in March.
Okay. Any idea what date?
I believe it was on I don't know the date, it would be on a weekend.
A weekend in March.
Yes,
All right. That'd be the first weekend in March if it was early in March?
could have been.
Was it down here?
Yes,
Do you recall a Saturday or a Sunday?
I believe it was a Saturday.
And who was present?
Miss Clark,
How long did you talk?
about an hour, hour and a half.
Was anyone else present during that hour to hour and a half?
People came in and gave her messages or papers that I didn't know what she was receiving, and then they left.
All right. But were any of the other lawyers seated at this table or other lawyers working on this case outside the courtroom present during this hour to hour and a half?
Periodically, an attorney would come in and give her something. Sometimes they would stay for a moment, then they would leave.
Well, let me narrow it a little bit, Detective Furman. During this hour to hour and a half, did any lawyer connected to this case come in and participate in what you and Ms. Clark were doing?
No.
All right, so that you talked together for 60 to 90 minutes about
Yes.
the case.
Yes, sir.
None of these people have ever had conversations with you about other matters, have they?
What are other matters?
Other than the case?
Ready? Objection. Ready.
Overruled. You can answer the question.
I don't understand the question.
All right, let me rephrase it. You have told us that you spent a number of hours talking with these people, among others, about the case.
Yes.
You don't socialize with any of these lawyers, do you?
No.
Haven't seen them outside the work environment, have you?
No.
And you don't have any other cases going with them at the moment, do you?
No, sir.
Okay. So is it fair to say that all of the discussions you have had with these people in 1995 have been about the case?
No.
It's not.
No.
What other things were talked about?
Chris Dard and I talked about basketball.
Okay.
Miss Lewis talks about scuba diving.
All right. Were these dominant themes or just small talk as part of the overall conversation?
Just conversation.
All right. But the main purpose, I take it, of each encounter, even though there may have been other subjects touched upon, was the case, People against Simpson,
Yes.
and your role in that case.
Yes.
Now, the total number of meetings in March that you can recall, excluding the grand jury session.
2 or 3.
All right. The first was with Ms. Clark for 60 to 90 minutes. When was the one that you meant when you said 2?
I believe that was during the weekday after court with Miss Clark.
And when was that?
I believe the following week.
So if you met on a Saturday, then some day during the following week after court had adjourned. I take it was late in the day.
I believe so, sir.
And how long did that session last?
I recall it was about an hour.
And were any other lawyers involved to the extent of participating in that conversation that you were having?
I think periodically Miss Lewis came in and out.
Did she stay long enough to position herself in the conversation or just drop something and take off?
Well, a lot of times when another person comes into the room, Miss Clark will stop, take care of business, or wait till they leave, and then we continue.
All right. My question to you was Ms. Lewis assisting Ms. Clark in some way in the preparation for this case, or simply coming in and out on other matters, other
No.
than the Furman testimony?
No, Miss Clark dealt with me directly.
And you said 2 or 3. If there was a third, what's your recollection as to that?
Close to the beginning of my testimony, or close to that week.
The testimony began, I believe, last Thursday.
Yes, sir.
So how long prior to that was your meeting with Ms. Clark, if it occurred? And I'm now looking for a third one.
Yes, that was very brief.
Yes. How long prior to the onset of your testimony did it occur?
2, 3 days?
Not the day before?
I don't believe so, no.
You weren't in the building the day before?
I was in the building the day before, yes.
What were you doing?
Waiting to testify.
Not talking with anyone?
No.
Okay. Was your lawyer with you at the time?
No, he was watching the TV, and I was not.
Now, have you spent any time with him, without going into anything that was said, preparing for your testimony in this case?
Preparing for direct testimony in this case?
No. Preparing for the cross-examination you assumed would follow hard on the heels of direct?
I think I've gotten some general advice, much the same as I've gotten from most of the people I know.
Okay. And you have been urged to remain calm, have you not?
I'm going to sustain the court's own objection in the context of the previous
I'm sorry.
question.
I mean to exclude Mr. Tortolo from any question that has substance of a conversation in it. I do not ask to go into anything he said to you. But you mentioned that you had advice from a lot of people, and what I meant to ask you was, did a lot of people say it was very important to remain calm?
No.
No. Were any documents, books, or other materials given to you or exhibited to you at any of these sessions to assist you in your role as a witness in this case?
No.
You have read no books on how to be a good witness?
No.
None on cross-examination?
None.
Have you watched any films or tapes that relate to that subject?
None.
And have you discussed your position with fellow officers and sought their advice as to how to be an effective witness?
No.
Now, Detective Furman, is it not fair to say that in your 19-year career, this is by far the most important case in which you've been involved?
No. What are you talking about, dude? This is not the most important case he's ever worked on. Maybe it was, for the public, maybe, but every murder case that he worked on was equally as important.
Yes.
Is it not also true that you realize now, as you did back on June 13th, that the right-hand leather glove, which you claim to have found in Rockingham, could be a very significant piece of evidence in this case?
Yes, sir.
And are you aware of the fact that your testimony, as it pertains to that evidence, may be very, very important to this court?
Yes.
Did you anticipate, based on what you had been told, that some sort of attack might be visited upon you with respect to alleged racial slurs?
No.
Was it a surprise to you when those questions were put by Marcia Clark at the very outset of your testimony to give you a chance to deny the allegations before I have talked to them?
Objection, Your Honor. Seems facts not the evidence and speculation.
Withdraw the question. Do you recall that when you took the stand, you explained to the jury and to the court that you had had some special sessions because of a problem not related to the facts of the case?
It states the testimony.
Overruled.
You recall that?
Yes.
All right. Do you recall that Ms. Clark then caused to be displayed to you parts of a letter allegedly written by Kathleen Bell to Johnny Cochran and invited you to examine the text of that letter? Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Had you discussed the fact that this was going to happen before you ever came into the courtroom?
Yes, that part, yes.
This was no surprise to you, was it?
No, sir.
And were you not advised that the effort in doing so was to steal the thunder from the inevitable cross-examination?
Objection, Your Honor. That's speculation. It's a bill.
Sustained.
Was it explained to you that this was an effort to defuse the impact of any accusations that might later be made against you?
Sustained.
Why, if there was an explanation, was it explained to you that this method of introducing your testimony was to be used in this case?
It wasn't explained to me, no.
Well, in other words, as I understand it, you were simply told, here's what we're going to do, Detective Furman. Here's the order in which things will happen when you hit the witness stand, and we're not going to tell you why.
I'm not the prosecutor, sir.
I know that you're not the prosecutor, you're the witness.
That
Did
was
you
what-
have any comprehension as to why this tack was taken by the prosecution?
Yes.
Did you understand that it related to possible experiences you might have on cross-examination?
No.
Okay. What was your understanding as to why this letter was surfaced at the outset of your testimony?
Objection, Your Honor.
I think his frame of mind is relevant. Overruled.
As to the reason for...
His understanding.
His
No,
understanding.
I've inquired, counsel. It is relevant, his frame of mind. Overruled.
Give us your understanding of why this was done in this case.
Because that's why Ms. Clark, the way she wanted to litigate this case.
Okay. And beyond that, you had no comprehension as to why it was done. Is that right?
No.
Did you not testify at the very outset of your testimony that you have been subjected since the preliminary hearing to a barrage of personal attacks which made you nervous as you first sat down in the stand?
It states the testimony.
Sustained.
Did you tell us something about your experience since July 6th, or a little later, perhaps around the 14th, that was unusual?
No.
Did you tell us anything about problems you had had that were specific to this case and no other and did not relate to the evidence in the case?
Yes.
What did you mean to convey when you told that to this jury? What were you thinking of when you talked about these problems?
Being accused of committing a felony and a capital crime.
Okay. Was that the only accusation that was troubling you as you took the witness stand?
That's the only one I care about, yes.
The other ones, the accusations that you use racial epithets you don't care about at all. Is that correct?
I didn't say them. I don't care about them.
You don't care about them.
I didn't say them, sir.
State your testimony.
Witness answered.
Yeah. Did you read, without specifying the publication, in one of the media covering this case, a printed article, that disclosed or purported to disclose that you were undergoing some heavy training in the DA's office?
Objection, not
Did you-
Sustained. Rephrase the question.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
Rephrase the question.
Okay. Did you learn from any source that it was claimed that you were undergoing some training sessions in the district attorney's office with several lawyers?
I was told that.
Okay. Do you remember when you were first told that?
I believe when that Newsweek article came out.
So, Newsweek, you read it?
No.
No. Who described it to you?
Miss Clark?
Did she read
Miss
it to
Lewis?
you?
Yes.
They
Read
read
it
you
to
the
me?
text?
No.
Okay. Was there any talk, this, by the way, occurred after the grand jury experience, did it not?
Yes, sir.
Was there any talk during the period when she was reading this to you about a leak?
objection, this states the testimony. He just testified, I did not, nobody read it.
Wait.
I'm sorry. I may have misheard you. Did you not just tell us
Rephrase the
Ms.
question.
Clark read you the Newsweek article or a portion of it?
I don't believe she read it. No.
What did she say to you that Newsweek was talking about?
She pulled out excerpts of the article.
Well, where were the two of you?
Sitting in her office.
Okay. Now, does this help you with one of the meetings, the recollection of the Newsweek article in March?
Help me with the recollection.
We were trying earlier, Detective Furman, to pin down as best we could the times that you had met with prosecutors in the month of March to get ready for your testimony.
Yes.
At which of the possible 3 meetings that you have some recollection of did the Newsweek article surface?
I don't remember which one it was, sir.
Well, you remember the date on which you did the grand jury thing?
No.
You remember the day of the week?
Sunday?
Sunday?
I believe so.
All right. How long after that did Ms. Clark inform you that Newsweek had described the event?
I don't remember that.
A day or more?
I don't remember, sir.
All right. Is it fair to say that when Ms. Clark informed you about the Newsweek piece, it was after the grand jury exercise had taken place?
That would be fair to say.
All right. Now, were you present in her office when you learned about this? Or on the phone?
I'm not sure on that. I could have been in her office.
You don't recall whether or not you were on a telephone or facing Ms. Clark when you learned that your grand jury training had been published in the media?
I don't remember, sir.
Don't remember. All right.
Objected, granted.
Yes.
You've told us that you were not surprised when she developed early in your direct examination that you had undergone a practice cross-examination with some lawyers. If you were not surprised, at some point, I take it, you were informed that that was going to happen.
Yes.
Okay. Were you informed that that was going to happen sometime after the Newsweek article came out and you two discussed it?
No, I think Miss Clark told me that she was going to bring that up on direct, and that was as far as it went.
No. When did she tell you that?
Right before I testified.
Just before you testified?
No, the day before, maybe
All right.
day and a half.
Prior to that, you'd never heard of that plan, had you? Isn't that true?
Objection. As to this facts not in evidence, also.
Overruled.
You want to reapproach?
All right, with the court clerk, please.
I withdraw the question.
Easier.
You just said that Ms. Clark explained to you a day or two before your testimony that she would elicit from you the fact that you had practiced cross-examination, correct?
I don't know if it was exactly those words, but yes.
To that effect.
Yes, sir.
Was this a day or two before your testimony, the first time that this idea of bringing this out was conveyed to you?
Yes.
All right. But at no time after the experience took place and prior to the publication of the Newsweek article were you told that any such disclosure would be made. Isn't that so, Detective Furman?
Objection, Your Honor. It's exactly the point I'd like to approach.
All right, with the court reporter, please.
I do not withdraw this time.
All right.
Detective Furman, between the time that you did grand jury case preparation on the weekend and the time that Ms. Clark brought to your attention the contents of the Newsweek article describing that event, did any prosecutor tell you between those two events we're
I
going
don't
to
need the
bring the
banner.
preparation session out early in your testimony?
Objection.
No.
I didn't hear the answer.
Wait, there's an objection. All right, overruled.
No.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our recess for the morning session. Please remember my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves, form any opinions about the case, allow anybody to communicate with you, or perform any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. We'll stand in recess until 1:30. Detective Furman, you're excused until 1:30.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Back on the record in the Simpson matter, all parties are again present. Counsel, did we get a better photocopy of the Tortolo letter? Because
I was going to do that, Your Honor. I don't know whether it's been done.
I must confess that one of the critical lines regarding the amount is obscured on my copy and could be interpreted as 200,000.
I think it's pretty plainly 6 figures after the dollar sign.
The problem is the photocopy imperfection is exactly, and it appears to have been reduced as well.
Well, Mr. Totolo's upstairs. I'm sure the government could find out if the original says 100. The newspaper article says it in several places and said that he acknowledged it, so I can't imagine them trying to raise 10.
Ms. Clark? Do we know if that's available? That was our inquiry when we broke for lunch.
I know, I forgot to ask Mr. Tudor, I'm sorry. I can do that.
All right,
I'm doing it now.
All right. Are we ready to proceed in the absence of that? I'd like to see the read and a clear copy of this letter before we proceed with it.
The court has not issued a ruling then.
No,
Yeah.
one of the critical lines here is obscured to me. And I assume your copy is the same.
Yes.
All right. All right, then let's get as far as we can with the jury this afternoon. All right, Deputy Mayor, let's have the jurors, please. All right, let the record reflect that we've now been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel, that Detective Mark Furman is again on the witness stand, undergoing cross-examination by Mr. Bailey. Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
You're reminded you're still under oath. Mr. Bailey, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective Furman, yesterday when you were quizzed about the contents of the homicide kit in the vehicle that you and Detective Phillips picked up, one of the items that you mentioned that was carried in these kits was plastic bags.
Yes, sir.
Were there any of roughly this type of commercial Ziploc sandwich bag size and type of plastic in the homicide kit?
No, we don't have any Ziploc bags.
You don't?
No, we have I'm sorry,
Tell me what you do have.
a jail bag, what you put an arrestee's property in. Then it's heat sealed with a heat seal that's kept in the jail.
Okay. And I believe you said something about different size bags. Is that true?
Well, the jail bags are one size that I know is in there, and then you might have very small ones used for narcotics.
Okay.
All right, let the record reflect what Mr. Bailey has shown to the witness is a sandwich-size Ziploc bag.
Roughly 6 by 7.5 inches, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right. In other words, plastic bags of various sizes are available for the collection of evidence?
Two that comes to my immediate memory, yes.
Okay, and you mentioned also that rubber gloves are available.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, once again, Detective Furman, have you attempted to find out the identities of the people you were unable to name who were in the grand jury case preparation exercise?
No.
Does the name Melissa Becker mean anything to you?
None at all.
Do you remember any law students being present during that time? Anyone identified you as a law student?
I do not know any of the people in the room.
Sorry, Melissa Decker.
No, I still don't.
Okay. And you don't know whether any of the people in the room were law students?
I don't know what their status was, no.
Is there anyone in this room other than the lawyers seated at council table who were present during that exercise?
Objection to staff ordinance.
Overruled. Oh, I'm sorry. Stand corrected. Sustained. It does. Rephrase the question.
Yes. Do you see anyone in the courtroom who was present that day other than these lawyers?
I say objection.
I direct your attention over this area, Detective Furman.
No, Your Honor, standing objection seems facts not evidence in the state's testimony. Assumes that all of us are present here.
No, that's not my understanding of the question. Other than these lawyers.
Other than these, it assumes these lawyers were present.
Other than these lawyers here in the courtroom is the way I, why don't you rephrase the question so it's crystal clear?
You told us Mr. Darden and Ms. Lewis were present.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Clark was not, Ms. Clark was not, I take it.
She was not.
All right. Do you see anyone other than the lawyers? One, two, White, and one other that you named, assistant district attorneys, in this courtroom who was present during that session?
I don't believe so.
Looking in the audience, you don't recognize anyone who was present?
No.
Okay. You mentioned a Mr. Runyon. What does he do?
I believe I see him assisting Mr. Darden.
Okay. Have you had any contacts with or interviews with, since the 1st of January, any psychologists?
Objection, Your Honor. Privilege.
In connection with the testimony?
No.
None at all?
No.
Have you received any counseling from anyone other than lawyers with respect to your testimony?
No.
Okay. Does the name Detective Furman Don Vinson mean anything to you?
Don Vincent, I believe, is a city attorney.
Do you know any other Don Vinson or know of one?
No, sir.
Okay, and how about Mark Goldston? That name mean anything to you?
The name Goldstein does not know.
Have you had any contact with anyone by either of those names in connection with this case since the 1st of the year?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, thank you. Now, in your direct testimony, you explained to us that at the request of Detective Van Adder, I believe it was, you and Detective Phillips went back to Bundy to review the left-hand glove that you had seen there.
Yes, sir.
And the purpose of that was for you together to make a judgment of some sorts as to the probability that the two gloves were related, the right hand at Rockingham, the left hand at Bundy.
Yes, and to see if they were similar.
Okay. And in connection with that effort, I believe you said that you took a pencil and picked up, or pen, and picked up the glove to see what the lining looked like.
Yes, lifted it up, yes.
Can you explain to me in a little more detail, and you can show us if you wish with this glove, how you picked it up? In other words, where the pencil was put?
I didn't pick it up, sir.
Well, did you lift it at all, or just lift one
Just
flap?
lifted it, yes.
Okay. And how far did you lift it?
A couple inches.
And did you shine your little light on it? Was it light enough so you didn't need to by the time you got back to Bundy?
I was looking predominantly at if it was a right or a left,
Uh-huh.
and the lining,
Okay.
color of the leather.
And you found that they were similar.
Yes,
And then you went back and made your report.
yes,
Now, you remained at Rockingham for some time after that, did you not?
yes, sir.
You know a witness in this case named Ron Shipp?
Yes,
Did he talk to you on the phone that morning?
he did.
Okay. And prior to talking to Ron Shipp, did you make an effort to find out whether anyone in the neighborhood had heard anything unusual that night?
No,
Did you go question anyone in the neighborhood?
no,
Did you go to any home in the neighborhood?
yes.
Whose home?
The house to the north that I now know is the Salinger residence.
All right. And did you encounter someone there that you were able to talk to?
Briefly, yes.
And was that Rosa Lopez?
I have no idea.
You didn't get her name?
No,
You didn't write it down?
no,
Did you ask her if she'd heard anything unusual, just yes or no?
no.
What did you ask her, if you remember?
If I could look down the north border of the residence, something happened next door, and I just wanted to look and see if there was anything on their side of the property. They said no problem.
All right. Now, did you make any inquiry as to where her bedroom was, if she had one, with respect to the Simpson house?
Absolutely none, sir.
Did you make any inquiry as to whether or not she had seen anything that night over at the Simpson house?
No, I didn't.
Did you inquire as to whether or not she had heard anything that night at the Simpson house?
No,
By this time in your investigation, having in mind the blood that you discovered on the Bronco and the glove that you discovered in the alleyway, had Mr. Simpson become a suspect in your mind as a detective?
I think there was a remote possibility, but nothing was solid. No.
A remote possibility.
Yes,
Okay. Well, were you present when he arrived from Chicago and they slapped handcuffs on him? Oh,
yes,
well, when you slap handcuffs on someone, you're taking him into custody, aren't you?
not always, no.
Oh, you have the right to handcuff a citizen without a criminal charge?
There are instances you could, yes.
Have you done that in the past? Handcuff people against whom there was no charge?
Oh, well,
There's times when people pick people out as suspects, and you later identify that they were not the suspect, and you would release them.
But that wasn't the case here, was it?
I don't know what the case, as far as he was handcuffed. I did not order that.
Without going into the details, had you had conversation with the other detectives as to whether or not Orenthal James Simpson was a suspect in the double homicide on Bundy?
No,
That had not ever been discussed prior to your going to the house next door, is that correct?
that's correct.
Had it ever passed your mind, however remotely, that that might be the case?
Not knowing his whereabouts the night before, I felt it was extremely remote.
Not knowing his whereabouts?
I knew he was in Chicago.
Well, you also knew he didn't leave till 11, right?
I didn't know that, no.
You didn't think the limousine was there to pick up anyone else at 11 o'clock, did you?
I didn't know about the limousine other than what Cato initially told me.
How much more do you need to know? You saw a limousine at 11 o'clock.
stay.
Withdraw the question. Did that seem significant to you with respect to the whereabouts of the rather famous owner of the house, that there was a limousine there at 11 o'clock?
Objection, that mistakes the testimony. This is fact, not evidence.
Sustain.
Did Cato Kalin tell you that he saw a limousine there at 11 o'clock when he went outside after he heard the noise?
Yes,
Okay. Now, my question is, did that in any way relate to the possible presence or absence of Mr. Simpson at about that time at his home?
I had no idea.
Did you think maybe the limousine was bringing him back from somewhere?
I did not give it any thought.
But you knew he had gone to Chicago, didn't you?
Yes, I had been told that by then.
You knew that Detective Phillips talked to him in Chicago, didn't you?
Yes.
Time, when?
The next morning.
Well, I take it we're still in the context of when Detective Furman went next door to the Salingers.
Trying to find out what he then knew.
All right.
Okay. You knew that he reached him in Chicago by telephone, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. And that Detective Phillips was satisfied that the recipient of the call was in fact in Chicago, correct?
Yes.
All right. So at some point he had traveled to Chicago. Did that occur to you?
Of course.
All right. Did a question arise in your mind as to when he might have traveled to Chicago?
It did not.
Well, did it occur to you if he traveled to Chicago before the ice cream was purchased, at which point the victim, Nicole Brown Simpson, was very much alive, that he would be eliminated as a suspect insofar as direct participation in the homicide was concerned?
I never gave any of that.
That's
I'm sorry. Ms. Clark?
compounded on it. Complex.
Calls for a conclusion as well. Sustained.
Were you, Detective Furman, during the course of your stay from 2:10 a.m. until you talked to Ship, let's say around 10, is that correct? 10 o'clock?
I don't recall what time he called.
Mid-morning?
I believe so.
All right. Were you engaged in your profession as a detective of the Los Angeles Police Department?
At the time I talked to Mr. Ship?
No, sir. From 2:10 a.m., when you arrived on the scene, until at least mid-morning on the 13th, were you engaged in your profession as a police officer?
Yes, sir.
Were you being paid to carry out the function of a detective during that period?
Yes.
Were you giving that your best effort during that period?
I was being directed. Yes.
You were being directed?
Yes.
You weren't directed to the Bronco, were you?
No.
You weren't directed to the south border of the Simpson property, were you?
Yes.
By whom?
Mr. Kalin.
Mr. Kalin ordered you to go out and look for where the noise came from, detective?
No, he directed me by his statement.
Does he have the power to direct any detective in the Los Angeles Police Department, Detective Furman?
Direction and the logical thing to do would be one and the same.
They're one and the same. Do you
Yes.
want to leave it that Cato Kalin directed you to go out and look for the noise or its source?
By his statement? Absolutely.
Okay. You had no choice but to do that without telling anybody, correct?
I had a choice. That was a logical thing to do.
All right, well, let's continue. When you learned that Mr. Simpson was in Chicago, did it occur to you that the presence of the limousine might be of some significance?
I did not give the limousine any thought after that.
Did you give any thought to the possibility that Mr. Simpson was or was not in Brentwood between 9 and midnight?
No.
That never crossed your mind.
Well, it was out of my realm of responsibility at that time.
Well, you claim that you found an instrumentality of murder, what turns out to be, on his property. Did that give you any cause to suspect Mr. Simpson?
Knowing he was in Chicago, I think it would be quite the opposite.
I would date a lawyer any day of the week. I would definitely date a lawyer. Okay. We're going to find out about his Chicago trip tomorrow. We made it to the end. Thank you so much for coming out, guys. I really appreciate it. And I will see you all again later. Bye, guys. Thank you.